Mr. Griffin, you were a married man who had a 2-year affair with your wife's stepsister, the defendant. You say that relationship produced a daughter, but Ms. Richmond claims you are not her daughter's biological father.
They say the truth can destroy families, but lies can keep them chained for decades. This is the story of a forbidden affair, a secret child, and 30 years of confusion, heartbreak, and revelation. Mr. Griffin was a married man, living what many thought was a stable life. A hardworking husband, a father, a man people respected. But behind that calm surface, he carried a secret, an affair that should never have happened. Orye affair kisi or ki soth nahi, balke uski apni biwikai stepsister ki soth tha. For 2 long years, he and Miss Richmond hid what they were doing. Each time she visited her stepsister's home, each time he offered her a ride, temptation took control. What started as casual flirtation turned into something far more dangerous. Miss Richmond later said, "I was young, wild, and didn't care." She admitted she made a terrible mistake, one she was still paying for decades later. When the affair began, she was drawn to him, perhaps for the wrong reasons. He was older, confident, and already married. She knew it was wrong, but she kept going back. At first, Mr. Griffin said it was an honest mistake, but when pressed, he admitted the truth. It was not a mistake at all. It was a choice. Du saltak dono milt ra, chupkar, ch hupkar, bina kissy protection key. Soon, Miss Richmond discovered she was pregnant. When she found out, she didn't hesitate. She told Mr. Griffin first. In her heart, she believed he was the father. She said, "We were together more than anyone else. It made sense to me." But she also confessed something that shocked the courtroom later. During that same time, she had been with 2 other men. Yes, du or Martin ki soth by. When the judge asked her why she told only Mr. Griffin about the pregnancy, she said softly, "Because he was the one I cared for the most." To her, that mattered, but to the world it made everything uncertain. For Mr. Griffin, the moment he saw the child, everything changed. He lifted the baby girl in his arms, looked into her tiny eyes, and whispered, "She could be mine." From that moment, he believed it completely. Asniapni zindagi ki tis sol, is yakin ki soth guzare ki ye uski bidi hai. But belief and truth are not the same. Miss Richmond moved away, started her life elsewhere, and raised her daughter alone. She said she didn't want to face her past. Meanwhile, Mr. Griffin went on living, carrying guilt but also a quiet sense of pride, thinking somewhere out there he had another daughter. That little girl grew up as Tia. For her, life was full of unanswered questions. When people asked, "Who's your father?" she would say, "I don't know." Imagine that, a child growing up never knowing who she truly belonged to. Tia's childhood was a maze of whispers and rumors. Cousins once told her, "You look just like the Griffins." At first, she didn't understand, but those words stayed with her for years. When she was a teenager, she started noticing the same patterns, the same looks, the same eyes in family photos. She asked her mother, but Miss Richmond avoided the question every time. Decades passed. Mr. Griffin, now older, still believed Tia was his daughter. He never took another test, never asked again. In his heart, he knew, or thought he knew, the truth. But Tia didn't feel that certainty. For her, life was full of missing pieces. Growing up, she said, "I always felt like something was missing, like I didn't belong anywhere." When social media came along, it changed everything. One day, out of nowhere, she received a message on MySpace. It was from a woman named Leisha, Mr. Griffin's other daughter. The message read, "I think you're my sister." Tia was shocked. At first, she thought it was a prank. Who is this woman, she wondered, but something about that message felt real. Leisha explained that she'd seen child support papers with Tia's name years ago. Her father had mentioned her once, long ago, as someone who might be family. Leisha was curious. She wanted to know the truth too. For the first time, both sisters started asking the same question: who is Tia's real father? When the case finally reached the courtroom, the air was heavy. Mr. Griffin stood there, older now, tired but still certain. He said, "I've known for 30 years she's mine. I don't need a test to tell me." But Miss Richmond had doubts. "He wasn't the only man I was with," she reminded everyone. "We need proof." The judge listened carefully. Every sentence carried weight. Every memory added a layer of pain. Miss Richmond said she had once taken a paternity test decades ago in Wisconsin and was told Mr. Griffin was not the father. But Mr. Griffin said the opposite. He remembered getting paperwork that said he was. Kisiki paz by sabut nahitha. Ek purani kahani. Dualag yadin or ek bidijais upni azel pachan chahyai. The courtroom turned quiet as the judge spoke. "This is exactly why we are here today, so that no one has to live another day in confusion." Tia sat still, her hands trembling slightly. Her eyes moved between her mother and the man she might call Dad. Her heart was racing. After 32 years, she was finally about to learn the truth. But before the test results, the judge asked Mr. Griffin to look at Tia and speak directly to her. He turned slowly, his voice breaking as he said, "I'm sorry. I wish I had been there for you. I should have been." Tia tried to hold back tears. Her mother began to cry silently. The room fell silent. For a moment there were no accusations, no defenses, no questions. Only years of regret floating in the air. 30 years of love, guilt, and silence, all standing in one room. And in that moment, everyone realized something. Sometimes the truth isn't about who's right or wrong, it's about healing what's broken. Miss Richmond whispered, "I was selfish. I didn't want to deal with my past." She looked at her daughter and said, "I'm sorry for everything." And even Mr. Griffin nodded, as if forgiving her too. But forgiveness doesn't erase doubt. And truth doesn't wait forever. Now all that remained was one envelope, one sheet of paper that would decide 30 years of belief. Everyone held their breath. The judge slowly opened it, her eyes scanning the page. And then, the judge took a deep breath, the courtroom frozen in suspense. Every heart in that room beat just a little louder, every eye fixed on the small white envelope in her hands. And then her voice, calm but heavy, broke the silence. "In the case of Griffin versus Richmond, when it comes to 32-year-old Tia Richmond, it has been determined by this court, Mr. Griffin, you are not her father." The words hit the room like thunder. Gasps echoed. One woman covered her mouth. Someone in the back whispered, "Oh my God." Mr. Griffin lowered his head. For a few seconds, he didn't move, like time had stopped. Then he whispered softly, "Not her father," as if repeating it might somehow change the truth. Miss Richmond's eyes filled with tears, her body shaking as decades of guilt finally surfaced. Or Tia, she just sat there, silent, staring at nothing. For 32 years, she had wondered who she was, and now, even the only answer she thought she had was gone. The judge looked at her with compassion. "Tia," she said gently, "this doesn't change who you are, it only reveals what's real." But the truth, while freeing, can also be devastating. Tia's lips trembled as she whispered, "So, who is my father?" Her mother turned toward her, tears streaming down her face. "I don't know," she admitted, "but I'll help you find him." For the first time, Miss Richmond was being completely honest. There were no more excuses, no more hiding behind old lies. Usnikaha, main galit thigh, main selfish thigh, main niupni bidisi uska azel sach ch upakar raka. Mr. Griffin finally raised his head. His eyes red, his face pale, he stood up slowly. "I want to help too," he said softly. "I've got names. I'll help her find her real father." It wasn't anger in his voice. It was heartbreak mixed with love. The courtroom that had moments ago felt divided now seemed united in silence. Everyone could feel the weight of those words. Miss Richmond nodded weakly. And then something unexpected happened. Mr. Griffin's other daughter, Leisha, turned toward Tia and said gently, "You're still my sister." That single sentence cracked the wall of pain that had built over 3 decades. Because in that moment, it didn't matter who shared whose DNA. It mattered who shared love. Tia reached out, tears finally falling, and the two sisters hugged. The audience sniffled quietly. Even the judge looked down, her eyes moist. The DNA test had broken one bond, but maybe it had created another. Mr. Griffin whispered again, "She's still my daughter in my heart." Aspal Judge Kaha, Mr. Griffin, Opka ya jazba sabit karta haiki rishte surf kun si nahai, dil si bai bant hain. The hearing moved toward its end, but everyone could feel that this was more than just a paternity verdict. It was the ending of one lifetime of lies, and the fragile beginning of a new chapter of truth. Outside the courtroom, the reporters waited. Cameras flashed, microphones pushed forward. But none of the three, not Tia, not her mother, not Mr. Griffin, wanted to talk. They walked past silently, side by side, not as enemies but as people who had finally faced the truth. Inside the car, Tia sat quietly by the window. The city lights blurred outside, and she whispered, "For years, I used to imagine what my father was like. Now I know who he's not." Her mother reached for her hand, but Tia pulled away gently. She wasn't angry, just empty. Mr. Griffin sat beside them, his mind replaying memories of the past 30 years, birthdays he missed, moments he thought were his, the face of a child he once believed was his blood. And yet deep inside, he knew, love doesn't vanish with a test result. He turned to Tia and said softly, "You may not be mine by DNA, but I'll always care for you." Woke rahatha, kunka rishtana sahai dil ka tahai. For a man who had made terrible mistakes, it was perhaps his most honest sentence. In the weeks that followed, everything slowly settled, but nothing felt normal. Tia began therapy, trying to process decades of confusion. Her mother, Miss Richmond, started writing letters to the 2 other men she had mentioned from her past, hoping one of them might be the biological father. And Mr. Griffin, the man who had once carried both guilt and pride, began to heal too. He stopped denying his past, stopped hiding behind excuses. People around him said he seemed lighter, like a man finally free from a secret he had carried too long. He admitted, "I thought knowing the truth would destroy me, but it actually gave me peace." And Tia, for the first time in her life, didn't feel like she was living someone else's story. She began searching for her own. Ek din Tia nikaha, main chati hunki main apna azel walid si milan. Cha wo koi baiho, muj surf apna sach chahyai. It wasn't about revenge or anger anymore. It was about identity, closure, and peace. Months later, during a follow-up interview, Tia revealed something powerful. She said, "For 32 years, I carried a name that wasn't fully mine. But that name taught me something. Family isn't always who you're born to. Sometimes, it's who stands beside you when truth breaks you." Her mother, sitting next to her, nodded through tears. "Main ni apni zindagi ka sabs baragana, ya samcha ki jut ni much bakalia," she said. "Lekin azel main jut ni mary bidi ko tad dia." The host asked her, "Do you regret loving Mr. Griffin?" Miss Richmond smiled sadly. "I regret how it started, but not that it gave me her." It was perhaps the most human answer anyone could give. Mr. Griffin, when later asked about the case, said, "People make mistakes, big ones, but what defines you is what you do after the truth comes out." He added quietly, "I may have lost a daughter, but I gained forgiveness." The story of Tia, Miss Richmond, and Mr. Griffin became more than just another courtroom headline. It became a lesson about honesty, responsibility, and the courage to face consequences, even decades later. In every family there are secrets, some buried deep, some whispered, some half forgotten. But the longer they stay hidden, the louder the silence becomes. Or jab sach samni adahai, to wo surfek rishta nahitadta, wo ander ki jutko by mita ditahai. Tia later said in one interview, "If there's one thing I've learned, it's that truth doesn't destroy people, it rebuilds them." She wasn't wrong. Because even though she walked out of that courtroom without a father, she walked out stronger than ever before. She had spent years searching for answers outside of herself. Now she realized part of that answer was within her all along. And as she hugged Leisha one last time before they parted ways, she whispered, "We didn't lose family today. We just found it in a different form." Back home that night, Mr. Griffin sat on his porch, the moonlight reflecting off the pages of an old photo album. He looked at a picture of Tia as a child, one he'd secretly kept for years. He smiled faintly and said to himself, "She'll always be a part of me." Maybe he wasn't her father in blood, but he was part of her story, and sometimes that's enough. Because the truth is, family isn't always defined by birth, but by heart. Or dilsi bane, huriste kabhai pure tori nahajate. As the world moved on, their story remained a reminder to thousands watching that episode, a reminder that mistakes can haunt, but truth can heal. Every time someone hides behind a lie, there's a child like Tia waiting for answers. Every time someone says, "It's too late," there's a chance to prove it's never too late for truth. And every time someone loses a family member because of honesty, maybe they gain something greater, peace. 30 years. One forbidden love. One innocent child. And one courtroom that finally set them free. In the end, what destroyed them wasn't the affair, it was silence. And what saved them wasn't proof, it was truth. Because when the truth finally speaks, even the deepest scars begin to heal. The truth had been spoken, yet silence filled their lives for weeks afterward. It was the kind of silence that doesn't come from peace, it comes from exhaustion. They had carried lies for so long that even honesty felt heavy now. Tia spent nights awake, staring at the ceiling, her mind replaying everything. The words, "You are not her father," echoed in her ears again and again. Sometimes she wanted to scream, sometimes to cry, but most nights she simply stared into nothingness, numb. Her mother tried to comfort her. "We'll find the real one," she said softly. But how do you look for someone when all you have is a 30-year-old memory and regret? Miss Richmond felt the same guilt every day, guilt for her choices, guilt for the pain she had caused, guilt for building a life on half-truths. She looked at her daughter and whispered, "If only I could turn time back." But time never turns back. It only moves forward, dragging the past along like a shadow. Mr. Griffin, too, felt the shadow follow him. He had faced the public shame of cheating on his wife long ago, but this was different. For 3 decades, he had believed he was a father. He had imagined birthdays, graduations, weddings, moments that never really belonged to him. Now every imagined memory felt stolen. Yet in that loss, something unexpected was born: humility. He stopped defending himself, stopped blaming her, stopped asking, "Why me?" Instead, he began asking, "How can I make things right from here?" He started writing letters, one for Tia, one for his real daughters, and one for his late wife. He wrote, "I have lived my life learning that love is never wrong, only misplaced. I failed many times, but I want to end in truth." Those letters would never make the news, but they carried more honesty than he had ever spoken aloud. One morning, months after the verdict, Tia decided to meet him again. She found him sitting on the same porch where he used to drink his morning coffee. She walked up quietly, unsure of what to say. He looked up, surprised but calm. She said softly, "I came because I didn't want the last thing between us to be a test result." He nodded, eyes filling. I'm glad you came, you look good, strong. They sat in silence for a while, two people connected by a mistake, separated by truth, and still bound by something neither could name. Finally, Tia spoke. I used to hate you, she said, for not being there, for not fighting harder, but now I realize you didn't even know what to fight for. He smiled sadly. Maybe I should have fought anyway. They both laughed quietly through tears. And for the first time, there was peace. That meeting didn't change facts, but it changed hearts. Tia left that day lighter, freer. When she hugged him goodbye, she said, "You'll always be part of my story." And he whispered, "That's all I ever wanted." Months later, Tia received news. Her mother had found one of the men she'd mentioned years ago. He had agreed to take a test. Tia didn't expect much. After all, she had learned not to rely on hope. But when the results came, the man was also not her biological father. It was another dead end. Yet this time, Tia didn't cry. She simply smiled and said, "Maybe some stories aren't meant to end with answers. Maybe they end with acceptance." And in that moment, she realized she wasn't chasing a man anymore. She was chasing peace. People often think the truth sets you free the moment it's spoken. But freedom doesn't arrive like lightning. It comes slowly, quietly, in pieces, through forgiveness, understanding, and time. Miss Richmond began volunteering at a counseling center, helping young mothers avoid the mistakes she made. She told them love doesn't hide. If you're hiding it, it's not love, it's guilt. Her words hit deep for those who heard them. Meanwhile, Mr. Griffin reconnected with his daughters, trying to rebuild the bond he had neglected while chasing guilt and secrets. He never remarried. He said, "Some people spend their lives looking for forgiveness outside. Mine came from within." Years passed. Tia became a mother herself, to a little girl named Hope. And maybe that name said everything her life had been missing. She promised herself she would raise Hope differently, with honesty, no matter how hard it was. One night, holding her baby close, she whispered, "You will always know where you come from because I won't let silence steal that from you." She often looked at her child and thought about her own mother, not with anger anymore, but with empathy. Because sometimes, people hurt others not out of cruelty, but out of fear. She finally understood what her mother once said, "Jut kabhai baka nahai sakta, baz der tak dard chupa sakta hai." In a television follow-up special years later, Tia, her mother, and even Mr. Griffin appeared together. It wasn't dramatic, just three people sitting side by side, sharing the same truth with calm voices. Tia said, "I spent half my life waiting for one man to call me daughter, but when I stopped waiting, I became whole." The audience applauded softly. Miss Richmond said, "I've learned that mistakes don't define us, our honesty after them does." Mr. Griffin added, "Sometimes being wrong teaches you more about love than being right ever could." There were no villains in this story anymore, only humans. After the cameras turned off, the three hugged quietly before leaving the studio. Mr. Griffin whispered to Miss Richmond, "You were never the worst thing that happened to me. You were the lesson I needed." She smiled, teary-eyed, "And you were the man who taught me what truth costs." Tia watched them both and said softly, "Maybe forgiveness isn't about forgetting. Maybe it's about remembering without anger." And just like that, a story that began with sin ended with peace. If you ever watch the old episode again, you might notice something most viewers missed. That tiny moment after the verdict when Tia looked at Mr. Griffin and smiled through tears. It was brief, just a second, but real. That was the moment she stopped being a victim of her past and became the author of her future. And maybe that's what the show was really about. Not DNA, not courtrooms, not results, but healing. Because for every person sitting in that courtroom, the test wasn't just about biology. It was about truth, closure, and courage. Years later, when Tia's daughter turned 10, she asked, "Mama, where, Grandpa?" Tia smiled and showed her a picture, one of Mr. Griffin. She said, "He's not my dad by blood, but he's the man who taught me how to be brave." The little girl hugged her mother and said, "Then he's family." And Tia whispered, "Yes, Beta, family is who loves you, not just who made you." As the credits of life rolled on, everyone found their own kind of peace. Miss Richmond lived quietly, growing flowers in her small garden, writing letters to her daughter every week, letters full of honesty, hope, and faith. Mr. Griffin passed away years later, and at his funeral, among the flowers and old friends, stood Tia. She placed a small white rose on his coffin and whispered, "Thank you for caring, even when you didn't have to." No cameras, no audience, just one final goodbye. And maybe in that quiet moment, every tear, every doubt, every heartbreak found its rest. In the end, this story wasn't about scandal, it was about humanity. It was about how one choice can ripple through generations, and how truth, though painful, brings light where lies once lived. Because the truth doesn't destroy love, it purifies it. And no matter how many lies surround it, truth always finds a way out. So remember, if you're hiding a secret thinking it will protect someone, ask yourself, are you protecting them or just protecting your fear? Because somewhere, a child like Tia might grow up not knowing who they are. And one day they'll come searching, not for money, not for fame, but for peace. Sajduk ditahai, lekin jute barbud kar ditahai. Truth may cut deep, but it heals cleaner than lies ever will. And for Tia, Miss Richmond, and Mr. Griffin, that truth, as painful as it was, finally set them free.